Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Guilty. A Vancouver Island man on trial for the deaths of his two young daughters learns his fate. Also,
2 hours before that, 10 minutes before that, she was this vital young woman.
Anger at the sentence handed to a speeding driver who killed two women in Surrey. And
I love this house and I don't want to lose it.
BC's housing speculation and vacancy tax faces a major legal challenge.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news. A guilty verdict in the Andrew Berry trial. He's the man accused of killing his two young daughters on Christmas Day in Oak Bay in 2017.
CBC's Dan Burrett is live at BC Supreme Court in Vancouver tonight. Dan, you were in the courtroom when the jury's verdict came down.
Mike, Anita, a woman in the front row gasped and threw herself back on her chair as the jury foreperson read the verdict. Guilty on both counts of second-degree murder for Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry, sitting in the dock, did not seem to react. He just put his head down. This has been a 5-month trial with dozens of witnesses, and today the verdict, as we mentioned. Now, Berry pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder. And over the course of this trial, he told the court he and his girls were attacked in his apartment in Oak Bay by a dark-skinned person, and that he was attacked. He said he owed thousands of dollars to some sort of loan shark named Paul. The Crown argued Berry used a baseball bat and a knife to kill his daughters and then try to kill himself. He was found in the bathtub, severely injured, naked, and bleeding. The Crown contends that he did this, he killed his daughters out of animosity, out of spite for his ex-wife. As we speak now, the jury is being asked for its recommendation on sentencing. Second-degree murder comes with it a automatic life sentence with no chance of parole between 10 and 25 years. The jury began deliberating Tuesday afternoon, so after a 5-month trial, this is a relatively short amount of time for the jury to deliberate. Again, Andrew Berry guilty on 2 counts of second-degree murder in the killing of his daughters on Christmas Day 2 years ago. Anita, Mike?
Dan Burrett live at BC Supreme Court tonight. Thanks.
BC's contentious speculation tax is now facing a legal challenge.
A lawsuit has been filed in BC Supreme Court alleging the tax on vacant or underused homes is unconstitutional and beyond the power of the province. Eric Rankin with that story.
Every time I look at those trees, I remember my father planting them.
72-year-old Denise Simpson says her 2-story home in Oak Bay near Victoria is more like a member of the family than a house. It's been in her family since she was 5. The house now frozen in time after her mother's death, chock full of memorabilia and memories. But because Simpson spends part of the year in Texas with her 93-year-old American husband Robert, the province has decided her BC home isn't her primary residence. Denise has been hit with BC's speculation tax, $6,000 on top of other taxes.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand how this would apply to us where we're not speculators. I love this house and I don't want to lose it.
But the Simpsons say they could lose it. They're unable to afford the tax, both of them on fixed retirement incomes. House rich, but cash poor. They say they've been caught up in an overly broad speculation tax originally designed to stop foreign investors from buying up homes and leaving them empty, fueling the affordability crisis.
We're quite surprised that the government greed for money will drive us out of here if that happens.
Now, the Simpsons are the lead plaintiffs in a lawsuit filed by 6 homeowners against the province's speculation tax. The civil action alleging it's unconstitutional, infringes on charter rights, and is beyond the power of the BC government. The province has yet to file a legal response. If you're wondering how the Simpsons can afford a lawsuit, the law firm involved is handling it pro bono, without charge, hoping to finance the tax challenge through crowdfunding.
I believe that this petition is the first step to building, a larger constitutional challenge that might evolve into a greater class action.
The Simpsons had paid off the mortgage on their home, planning Denise would move back here full-time after Robert dies. Now they're facing an uncertain future because they don't want to sell.
I would never, ever get over having to lose this house. And I would never want to go back to Canada again. I would be very bitter about it.
Eric Rankin, CBC News.
A Surrey man who killed 2 women in his speeding car and left another badly injured was sentenced to 20 months in jail today.
Deborah Goebel was in court and has the emotional reaction from the family of those who died.
For the last time the victims' families enter the courtroom, the accused, Nicholas Carvanaris, pled guilty to 2 counts of dangerous driving causing death and 1 count of dangerous driving causing bodily harm.
You know, if we're lucky today, it'll be 2 years less a day.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. Nothing like. So if I had my druthers, it would be 10 years.
Instead, the judge sentenced the 26-year-old to 20 months for each count to be served concurrently.
We can't even put into words how lost we feel.
It was November 4th, 2018. There was heavy rain. Sarah Dillon was driving a Ford Escape when Carvanaris crossed the median and hydroplaned into her car, killing her instantly.
It's just devastating. And, you know, when you ask me about sentences, I guess I would ask you, tables returned, what would you think? So, I don't know, maybe that's the answer to the question.
Carvanaris later admitted to psychologists he didn't process anger well and so on occasion would get in his vehicle and speed. He already had 7 speeding convictions. The night of the crash, he was going 167 kilometers an hour in a 50K zone.
Because the sentencing was so low, it was hard just hearing how Sarah died, Paige died, Liv was injured, and to hear it all over again, and it brought it all back.
The 20-month sentence is less than the Crown had asked for. It recommended 22 to 24 months, but the judge based much of her decision on precedent-setting cases from the past. But similar cases have rarely sentenced drivers to over 2 years.
You know, this type of crime, dangerous driving causing death, is sentencable up to a maximum of 14 years. Unfortunately, none of our courts, none of our judges give out any type of sentence even close to that. He may serve 15 months out of that 20-month sentence.
She believes Canadians need to question why longer sentences are not given.
I told my children that nothing was going to equal our loss. I told them that the first day.
Deborah Goebel, CBC News, Surrey.
19 years after a Kamloops woman went missing, her body has been recovered and her boyfriend charged with killing her.
Angel was never forgotten, and investigators have always remained determined to locate her.
Angela Fair was reported missing by her family in June of 2000. The last time they saw her was at a family dinner in Abbotsford. She was 5 months pregnant at the time. On the weekend, police found her body at a rural property near 100 Mile House. 52-year-old Trent Larson, who was Fair's boyfriend when she went missing, is now charged with 1 count of second-degree murder. Fair's family says the news is painful, but does bring some closure.
She's a beautiful, beautiful young lady, and she didn't have time in her life to be what she could have been. When you don't know, you're always in your mind thinking, well, maybe I'll get a phone call. Maybe I'll get a phone call from her. So there's closure that way. Doesn't make it any easier.
Police has not said what evidence led them to Fair's body. Larson is scheduled to appear in Kamloops Provincial Court September 30th.
A man has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to murder in relation to the 2009 shooting death of a Red Scorpion member in Langley. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team says 38-year-old Kreshnik Ismailaj made the plea in BC Supreme Court this morning. He is a UN gang member and was arrested in Ontario in July of last year in connection with the shooting. His plea comes 10 years after the slaying of Kevin Leclerc, a high-ranking member of the Red Scorpions. Leclerc was shot while leaving a restaurant at the Thunderbird Shopping Centre in Walnut Grove.
We could learn more tomorrow about the RCMP investigation into the northern BC murders of Leonard Dick, China Deese, and Lucas Fowler. Mounties will be holding a news conference, but it's not clear if they'll be releasing the final videos shot by suspects Briar Schmigelski and Cam McLeod. They were charged in Dick's murder and were suspects in the other two killings. Schmigelski's father is still seeking answers.
Mr. Schmigelski has many questions about what happened. He has questions about what his son's involvement was, if any, in the alleged activity. He also has questions specifically about where any firearms came from, how those were obtained. So he is looking forward to getting some closure here and to receiving answers finally.
And we will be live streaming the RCMP news conference at 2:15 tomorrow afternoon at cbc.ca/BC.
Charges have been laid in connection with a violent attack on a nurse at the Abbotsford Hospital on Tuesday. The nurse ended up with a broken jaw, fractured cheekbone, damaged teeth, and other head and face injuries. Neil Heath, a 62-year-old patient, is accused of ambushing her and hitting her with an exercise weight. Heath has been arrested and charged with aggravated assault, and the investigation is ongoing.
Well, the newest Seabus that was supposed to start ferrying passengers across Burrard Inlet this summer has been delayed by a year. The Burrard Chinook was modified with a better emission control and air conditioning system, but those changes left the boat sitting lower in the water. Concerns that could be a problem in rough sea conditions and when aligning the vessel in the terminals. The Dutch-built ferry will be modified but will remain under its $29 million budget, according to Coast Mountain Bus Company, which operates Seabus.
There's a new incentive to get into an electric vehicle. The BC government is offering a rebate to get charging stations installed at home. Single-family homes are eligible for a $350 rebate. BC Hydro will also match that for a limited time. Electric car owners who live in an apartment can get a $2,000 rebate for a station designed for multiple users. An EV charging station for a single-family home typically costs between $700 and $2,000. The cost for a multi-unit building ranges from $2,000 to $12,000.
For many places, they'll be able to successfully get a rebate for 50% of their costs, whether it's a single family or multi-use, but it's up to $2,000. So if they have to do a lot of that upgrading of old infrastructure, old copper wires or something, then we can apply up to $2,000 to those costs.
The rebate only applies to level 2 stations. That's the kind you see around the city. And to qualify for the rebate, charging stations and documentation must be installed and submitted by March 31st of next year.
Time for our first look at the forecast. Meteorologist Brett Soderholm joins us now. I can't remember what you were ping-ponging on for each day, right? We'd have sun and rain, and I can't even remember what happened today.
I know. We've kind of been going through that up and down motion. Last night was when the rain came through, and then as the day went on, we did get a few breaks of sun. Temperatures overall fairly close to where they should be. Vancouver today got up to about 17 degrees, and the hot spot in the whole province, that was good old Port Alberni, almost 22 degrees earlier on this afternoon. In terms of what we can be expecting over the next little while, we're going to keep this trend of relatively clear skies. So only a few clouds expected tonight. Lows will be going down to around 11 degrees or so. Tomorrow morning, there should be some sunshine right when you wake up. But as the day goes on, we're going to start to see a return of that increasing cloud. And by late into the afternoon, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few passing showers come through. Now, not a lot compared to what we've seen before. That could be lingering into the overnight period. But beyond that, we are going to be in the clear for the weekend. In other parts of our province, though, it is a different season entirely. 5 to 10 centimeters of snow possible in the Peace region, adjacent to the Rocky Mountains there. And we even have our first snowfall warning of September, 10 to 15 centimeters of snow if you're doing any traveling west of Fort Nelson. Do keep that in mind.
All right. Thanks very much, Brett.
You're welcome.
Well, some of Vancouver's top musicians are striking a chord of solidarity ahead of tomorrow's global climate protest. They gathered on the steps of the Vancouver Library downtown today, playing Beethoven's iconic Ode to Joy. Tomorrow's climate rally is expected to draw thousands in Vancouver. It starts at 1 in the afternoon, and it mirrors marches being held right around the world.
And climate change activist Greta Thunberg will be in Montreal tomorrow as the latest wave of global climate strikes begin. And across Canada, some companies are shutting down for the day to allow their employees to take part.
Companies lose out on a day of sales, but as the CBC's Jacqueline Hansen reports, it could actually be good for business.
This is the environmental friendly e-bike that is trying to replace the car out there.
The climate is a priority for Jeffrey Bukarich, who fixes bikes at Mountain Equipment Co-op. Bukarich usually works Fridays, but tomorrow he's organizing a ride to the climate strike.
I was thinking about taking the day off anyways, just calling in sick, but I'm glad I don't have to do that.
These signs tell customers that MEC is closed Friday so employees can take part in climate demonstrations. Patagonia is also opening some of its stores late, and Lush Cosmetics is shutting down operations across the country. All retailers that already target young, environmentally conscious consumers.
While it aligns with our brand, it's certainly more of an ethical decision on our part. As climate change is affecting us more and more directly, we want to recognize our responsibility in that.
More companies are at least publicly making the environment a priority.
It's a huge risk for companies. It's a huge risk for the planet.
But some experts warn that taking a bold stance against climate change is also a risk if companies don't follow through.
They do need to be careful that they're prepared to take action as well.
Amazon is trying to do just that.
We're moving packages around.
Last week, the company admitted it pollutes almost as much as some small nations.
We want to use our scale and our scope to lead the way.
Now it's buying a fleet of 100,000 electric vehicles, a multi-billion-dollar investment that should be better for the environment and potentially for business.
Everybody on our team have signed this in kind of collective, active advocacy.
At Lush, climate crisis signs are ready for employees to carry at the march.
If the good press comes as well, I mean, it's coming for a good reason.
For the cost of a day of sales, it's the attention that companies crave and some of the action conscious consumers demand. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
But it's not just big businesses shutting down like Mac and Lush. Some small companies are also doing it, trying to help employees who want to attend those rallies in downtown Vancouver tomorrow. Anita caught up with Ben Ernst, one of the owners of Ernest Ice Cream, which will open late to accommodate.
Ernest Ice Cream is one of many businesses in Vancouver and across Metro Vancouver that are allowing employees to take leave for the day and go take part in this climate strike. Why is it important for you to do that?
We believe as a business that it's incredibly important for our staff, who are mostly young people, and young people around the world, to have a safe future. So we think that closing our shop during the climate strike, it's allowing folks to attend if they'd like, and it's also sending a message to our elected leaders that this is a really important issue and we can't just go on with business as usual.
So you're going to delay your opening that day tomorrow until 4 o'clock. How are you able as a business to do that?
Well, we're taking a hit financially for sure with the income, but we think that it's worth it, and that's part of sending the powerful message. And we're allowing staff who might be missing shifts during that time to make up those shifts later in the week.
Ernest Ice Cream is already a leader in businesses trying to be more green. What are some of the ways that you are doing that?
Oh, it's a wide variety of things, everything from this reusable glass pint jar, which we've packaged our ice cream in from the very beginning, to steel spoons that we wash and reuse. So zero waste has been a big part of our business, and treating our employees really well is another value of ours. And we're measuring our carbon footprint and reducing that year over year. So there's a wide variety of things. It's really baked into who we are as a business.
Some people are saying that the businesses that are doing this are being opportunistic. What do you say to those people?
This is a call that we've heard coming from the youth who are organizing this event, and we are backing those folks up and saying, we'll have your back. You've asked adults to join, and that's what we're doing.
It's unlikely that these climate strikes are going to stop. If anything, they'll only ramp up. Will you continue to allow your employees to take time off work to take part?
Yes, if the youth organizers once again call for adults to back them up and come out into the streets and join them, I would imagine we're going to do that and close down again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
lot of people planning to attend tomorrow, downtown Vancouver and all over the world.
Students, businesses, we'll see what happens for sure. Just a reminder, all of our stories are available for you to watch at any time after this newscast. Just follow CBC News BC on Twitter. You can also stream this newscast and all of CBC's other content live and on demand by downloading the free CBC Gem app.
CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Follow us on all of those platforms for extra content you won't see here on TV.
Well, it's neck and neck in the polls, but the Green Party's Elizabeth May drew a line in the sand on what should we support if a minority government became a reality. It's the federal election and the battle for BC votes next.
Guess what day it is?
It's Thursday, so it must be
Throwback Thursday, of course. This is our regularly scheduled commercial break, and we always like to provide some good content for you here.
Yes, Greta Thunberg has been in the news a lot lately, as you've seen, but she's not the first young girl to make headlines, at least locally, for her eco-friendly initiatives.
Back in 1990, a Burnaby girl was recognized for her efforts as the region's top recycler.
Harmony Poirier-Getty has been doing this every Sunday for the last 6 months. She's collecting old food and yard waste from 2 of her neighbors and dumping it into her backyard compost. So how did you start it?
Well, I got money from my paper. I took it out of the bank, and I bought some buckets. I bought 3 buckets, and I got my dad to construct this.
It was my wife, Joyce. They made the deal to come round here a few months ago. And you know, kids, I thought it will happen for a little while, but she's been very, very good. Every time we fill it up, or even before we fill it up, and you always think, with the hot summers we've had, you know, the smell, but it's always been clean and done her job. Very good, she's good at it.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right.
That's good.
I came to collect your compost.
And what did you used to do with the garbage before?
Used to go down my carburetor.
So you think it's a good idea what she's doing?
Very, very much. I think it's a very good idea.
There's the soil forming already down there. That's like what it all turns into.
Harmony learned her composting skills from television.
If you do it correctly, it shouldn't smell. So you just start by layering some vegetables and stuff, and then you get a bulky material, grass, whatever. Layer it with some manure, and just keep doing that cycle, and it's supposed to be 14% water.
Harmony wants to include more neighbors in her program, but says she'll need a bigger compost. Her efforts are being rewarded on Wednesday. The GVRD has named Harmony as one of the Lower Mainland's top recyclers. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what to wear, though. I don't know if the men are going to be in suits or tuxes, so...
May Wong, CBC News, Burnaby.
Ahead of the time, for sure.
No kidding, 1990. Good for her.
I'd love to see what she's doing now.
We should find out.
Yes.
Find out. All right, stay with us. Power and Politics host Vashi Kapelos is going to give us her analysis on the latest election campaign developments in just a couple of seconds.
Leaders of all the federal parties are still going hard on the campaign trail. Let's take a look now at what they're promising today.
Right now, the polls are suggesting no party will win a majority government in the October 21st vote. So today, en route to Montreal, Green Party leader Elizabeth May said she would not prop up a minority government if it supports the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion.
If the positions of the other parties were cast in stone and they would never budge, well, none of them could possibly be supported by Greens.
May says she's confident the Greens will pick up several seats, particularly in the Maritimes, enough to affect the balance of power. In Montreal this afternoon, she laid out some of the details in her renewable energy plan. That includes cancelling the Trans Mountain project and spending on sustainable power instead.
Our plan is going to help out nearly 500,000 families with up to $5,000 of support each year. According to the PBO, this will make the difference for families that are unable to pay their bills.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who is still campaigning in BC, is repeating his commitment to build 500,000 new affordable homes. Also, rental benefits for families paying more than 30% of their pre-tax income on rent. Singh says Liberal leader Justin Trudeau simply doesn't take the housing problem seriously. He's reiterating his support for a public inquiry into the SNC Lavalin controversy as well, but criticizing Conservative leader Andrew Scheer for lacking a position on deferred prosecution agreements. Singh is also once again confirming his opposition to the Trans Mountain Pipeline project.
Hello. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau paddled his way to a campaign event in Sudbury. He unveiled the Liberals' pledge to do more to protect Canada's forests, lakes, rivers, and oceans. Trudeau says the Liberals, if re-elected, will conserve and protect 25% of Canada's lands and oceans by 2025 and aim for 30% by 2030. Trudeau says over the past 4 years, his party has surpassed its targets for protecting Canada's oceans.
This is about the truth coming to light. Justin Trudeau has thwarted several attempts for parliamentary investigations into the scandal. He has refused to waive cabinet confidences. He has refused to let Jody Wilson-Raybould complete her testimony. So this announcement today will ensure that Canadians will have the answers to the scandal.
Andrew Scheer was in Justin Trudeau's home riding today, promising to launch a judicial inquiry into the SNC Lavalin controversy if his Conservative Party is elected to power. Scheer also pledged to introduce new legislation to allow the RCMP to access information protected by cabinet confidence through requests to the Supreme Court. While campaigning around Montreal, Scheer was interrupted by a climate change protester who was removed by police.
And joining us now from Ottawa is Vashi Kapelos, host of Power and Politics on CBC News Network. Vashi, thanks for doing this today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Justin Trudeau here in BC again this week. Jagmeet Singh spending a couple of days here as well. Andrew Scheer is going to be here in Vancouver tomorrow. That'll be the first time during this campaign. What's your sense of how the campaign is going for the major parties here in what people call Battleground BC?
Yeah, it is a battleground, that's for sure. And I think you can tell by the number of visits that many of the leaders have already paid to BC. As you mentioned, another one coming up tomorrow. Jagmeet Singh will be there for the next few days. Just like the rest of the country, though, it's really hard to tell how things are going. And I say that because of the tightness of the race, particularly at the top between the Liberals and the Conservatives, and the distance between them and the Greens and the NDP. Now, BC is a bit unique because there are a number of ridings where both the Greens and the NDP have sort of a stronger chance than they would in other parts of the country. And so what that provides is even more uncertainty, really, about what the outcome will be for any one of the parties. You've got some really interesting tight 2-, 3-, and 4-way races that could, in the end, and I think you guys are used to hearing this, but this time I really do think it could be the case, could in the end really make the difference just because of how close it is in other battleground provinces like Quebec and like Ontario. When you get to BC, in those 3- and 4-way races, they could actually make the difference. So I think you'll continue to see a lot of leaders visiting there.
And a major focus on climate change this week. The parties are really trying to out-green each other, I guess, in some respects. And that's obviously important here in BC. But, how much does the climate messaging resonate in other parts of the country?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, and it's almost as though we just started talking about it. To be honest, in this campaign, the first 2 weeks were really heavily focused on affordability issues and cost of living issues. They moved, or they were pushed out of the way by those pictures emerging of Justin Trudeau in blackface. And only now, as we head into this big climate strike day, for example, here in Montreal, or close by in Montreal, and the marches that are happening in Vancouver and all across the country, only now this week are we really starting going to see policy announcements around climate change and what the parties will do. The short answer is all the parties are promising things without a lot of detail. I think that's almost true of every single promise that we've heard so far. We're hearing lots more about more aggressive targets. The parties are hoping that resonates with young voters, particularly in this country, who have said climate change is of grave importance to them in this election. It's something they're going to be voting on October 21st. But the detail for every party has been sorely lacking. Whether that makes a difference in how important it becomes to voters as of October 21st is still to be determined. But certainly the plans have started rolling out, and I imagine there will be more questions to come.
Certainly will be. All right, Vashi, thanks very much for this. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Vashi Kapelos, host of Power and Politics, joining us tonight.
Many of the young marchers in tomorrow's global climate strike are hoping to spark a conversation and action about climate change. But we'll tell you how their action is already changing what's being taught in the classroom.
Monday on The National. Each day, a different candidate answers questions from undecided voters in front of a live audience. Join Rosemary Barton for this special series. The National presents Face to Face with the federal leaders. Monday.
here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
A jury has found Andrew Barry guilty of murdering his young daughters, Aubrey and Chloe, whose bodies were discovered at his Oak Bay apartment on Christmas Day in 2017. The verdict was delivered just a short time ago, 2 days after deliberations began. Prosecutors argued Barry killed his 2 children and then tried to take his own life.
Her family is destroyed. My son-in-law is hurting. My grandkids are hurting.
The families of 2 women who were killed and another who was badly injured by a speeding driver in Surrey are angry over the 20-month jail sentence the man received as part of a plea deal.
We're quite surprised that the government greed for money will drive us out of here if that happens.
6 homeowners have launched a legal fight against BC's speculation and vacancy tax. They claim it unfairly targets residents of out-of-country Canadians who split their time between 2 homes, many of them retirees with a limited income.
One of the faces of the environmental movement is Greta Thunberg. She and other young climate activists have captured the world's attention.
But as Sarah McMillan reports, high school students worry that her voice is being sidelined because she's so young.
For students in this environmental science class at Colonel Gray High School, talking about climate change is nothing new. But now they say they're hearing a lot more conversations outside the classroom, thanks in part to teen climate activist Greta Thunberg.
It's in everyone's feed. I don't think you can miss her if you use the internet.
Like many others around the world, these students have been watching as the 16-year-old makes headlines, including this week with her passionate speech in front of world leaders at the United Nations.
Right here, right now, is where we draw the line.
I just thought, how brave was that? She didn't sugarcoat it. She just said it how it was, and it was really inspiring, really moving.
But along with that inspiration, there's also frustration and fears.
People are focusing that, yes, she's young, and yes, it's cool that she's being so passionate about it, but that's not what you should be focused on. You should be focused on the problem that she's talking about and what she wants you to do. Like, she's 16, but that's besides the point.
At the same time, it feels really empowering and very sad. I just feel like maybe if it was an older person with more money, maybe they would listen. But it just feels really bad knowing that they might not pay attention to her as much because she's so young.
Even so, these students say they feel renewed commitment to doing what they can in their daily lives, things like carpooling, reducing waste, and eating less meat. And they hope the messages from Thunberg and other climate activists stay in the spotlight.
I know that things like this have come up in the past where somebody says something and it goes viral and people talk about it and it goes around for a while, but nothing really happens, nothing gets put into motion. So I'm really, really hoping that because she's so young and her voice is so loud and impactful, that maybe this time it'll get to people and something will change.
And some of these students say they'll add their own voices to the movement at a climate rally here on PEI tomorrow. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Charlottetown.
6:38, a live look at Georgia Street in downtown Vancouver tonight. Well, thousands are expected in the downtown streets tomorrow for the climate strike. What does the weather hold for the marchers? We'll tell you next.
and in fact going to the East Kootenay specifically. We just found out rather recently here that there are actual special weather statements in effect now for some of our high elevation snow. They just seem to have disappeared, but rest assured they are there. Snow levels there going down to about 1,500 meters, so do keep that in mind. And on the other side of the Rockies, we actually have winter storm watches already in place. We could be seeing over 30 centimeters through the course of the weekend into early next week. Now, this is all thanks to the jet stream doing some crazy things up toward the Yukon and then bringing in very cold air toward the south into BC and Alberta. But in a pleasant change of events, this is going to be bringing us a lot of sunshine. So temperatures, even though they are going to be on the cool side for tomorrow, will rebound to seasonal. And I can't honestly remember the last time I've seen 4 days of sunshine in a forecast. It's probably been about, what, June, July, something like that? Anyways, it will be nice once it does get here. So tomorrow, the last final push, and then we're good to go.
Cozy Friday.
Cozy Friday indeed. I like it.
Thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
More turmoil on Capitol Hill. The details of a whistleblower's complaint revealed. That sparked an impeachment inquiry. So how did Donald Trump respond? That's next. We want to take you back to our top story now tonight. A guilty verdict in the Andrew Barry trial. He's the man accused of killing his 2 young daughters on Christmas Day in Oak Bay in 2017.
CBC's Dan Burrett is live at BC Supreme Court for us tonight with more reaction to the jury's verdict. Dan?
It's a mixture of relief and sadness, really, that we heard from some of the people sitting in the gallery today. As we said earlier, people gasping and throwing themselves back in the chairs as the jury foreperson announced 2 verdicts of guilty of second-degree murder against Andrew Barry in the killings of his 2 daughters, Chloe and Aubrey, in Christmas 2017. We spoke earlier with Valerie Jerome. She is a friend of Sarah Cotton, the girls' daughters. She calls it relief and calls it justice. Here she is.
They were very, very sweet little girls, and the last time I saw little Aubrey, she, was missing her 2 front teeth, and she was looking forward to going to kindergarten. I guess I saw them on the Labor Day weekend before they started at their new schools, and they were keen about starting their new schools. It was just lovely to see their joy.
Now it's up to the jury, which are being asked for sentencing recommendations and whether or not they want to have input on that. Second-degree murder conviction carries with it an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for between 10 and 25 years. The judge does not have to take the jury recommendations or follow them, but they can take them into account, and that's what they're still working on right now. Jury deliberations began about 2 in the afternoon, on Tuesday in the afternoon after a 5.5-month trial. As we said earlier, the defense argued that Andrew Barry owed money to a loan shark named Paul, and that was a dark-skinned person who attacked him and his girls in his apartment. The Crown alleged that there was a severe animosity between Andrew Barry and his ex-wife, Sarah Cotton, and these murders were out of spite. Essentially, they also contend that he was the one that tried to kill himself after killing the girls with a knife and a baseball bat in his own apartment. Now we wait for a sentence, and we have no word yet when that might come down. Anita, Mike?
Dan Burritt, live at BC Supreme Court tonight. Thanks.
The United States Acting Director of National Intelligence insists he followed protocol in dealing with a whistleblower complaint about President Donald Trump.
Joseph McGuire testified before the House Intelligence Committee today about Trump's phone call to the president of Ukraine in July.
As Lindsay Duncombe explains, it's that conversation that's led to impeachment inquiries.
Anger today from a rattled president.
What these guys are doing, Democrats are doing to this country, is a disgrace, and it shouldn't be allowed. There should be a way of stopping it, maybe legally through the courts.
In the complaint released today, the whistleblower said multiple U.S. officials were worried Trump was using the power of his office to get the Ukrainians to interfere in the 2020 election. At issue, that phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky. The whistleblower didn't hear it directly, but said several White House officials told the whistleblower they were deeply disturbed by it. The details in the complaint line up with the summary of the call made public yesterday. That Trump wanted Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter, a task he appeared to delegate to his personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani and Attorney General Bill Barr. The whistleblower accuses the White House of a cover-up, writing, "They told me there was already a discussion ongoing with White House lawyers about how to treat the call because of the likelihood in the officials' retelling they had witnessed the president using his power for personal gain." Adding, "I learned from multiple U.S. officials that senior White House officials had intervened to lock down records of the phone call, especially the word-for-word transcript that was produced, as is customary, by the White House Situation Room." On Capitol Hill, the acting director of National Intelligence was grilled about why he did not immediately pass the complaint on to Congress as required by law. Joseph McGuire defended his decision to consult with lawyers of the Department of Justice and the White House.
It was not stonewalling. I didn't receive direction from anybody. I was just trying to work through the process and the law the way it is written.
Democratic lawmakers say they see this whistleblower complaint as a roadmap. They plan to speak to the whistleblower directly and seek out the White House officials mentioned in the complaint as witnesses. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
A number of Ottawa city councillors are calling on one of their colleagues to resign. That's in the wake of a CBC News investigation into complaints against Councilor Rick Chiarelli.
2 weeks ago, we reported Chiarelli allegedly asked a job applicant if she'd be willing to go without a bra to some work events. Today, 6 more women say he asked them to go to strip clubs and wear revealing clothing.
As the CBC's Joanne Chianello reports, Chiarelli's lawyer says the councillor adamantly denies the allegations.
When I think about it, I get really anxious and I feel stressed out and frustrated. I feel angry that it happened to me.
This woman was 22 years old when she says Councillor Rick Chiarelli reached out to her on social media and invited her to a job interview. She said he asked about her hobbies, and she told him she'd loved dance since childhood. CBC is keeping some of the women's identities confidential because they're worried about finding employment in the future.
He asked me if I've ever done stripping, if that was a part of my dancing, and if I've ever considered doing stripping because I had the body for it.
Another woman who worked for Shirelli for 4 years says she was sent on assignment to strip clubs to allegedly spy on another city councillor. She says she was told to wear revealing clothing on those missions.
I think I had a skirt that I was planning on wearing, and then he gave me a top. And when I put the top on, originally I put the top on with a bra on. From there, he kind of looked at me and went, "Oh, it would look better if there was no bra." And the way that it was said was very, well, you kind of have a choice, but the implied is you don't have a choice in this matter.
This woman says she too was asked to wear skimpy clothing, but was told her assignment would be different.
The most shocking thing that he said to me was that we had to recruit men for him, and that was dancing with guys and acting like you would like to sleep with them.
In total, 6 more women are now making allegations about Councillor Rick Shirelli's behavior. They say they wish they'd spoken out sooner.
I was nervous that nobody would believe me. It would be a he said, she said situation, and this guy's and the city councillor, so it just, why would somebody believe some 20-year-old girl over some guy who has a reputation in the city for 30 years?
Rick Shirelli's lawyer says the councillor adamantly denies the allegations and that he's dealing with serious medical issues. He says the councillor will respond more substantively when he's feeling better. Yesterday, Ottawa City Council postponed Shirelli's request for a formal leave of absence. Joanne Cunello, CBC News, Ottawa.
From the plains of Alberta to the glitz of Luxembourg, meet a photographer on the rise. Next.
A Canadian photographer is on the trip of a lifetime. Jenna Hobbs captures her life as a mom of 5 living on a farm near Edmonton.
Her subjects may be ordinary, but now Hobbs's art has been recognized internationally.
1, 2, 3, go.
We always say, me and my photography partner, that mothers work in the cracks of time. We live on a farm. I have 5 kids. Photography art for me is my sanity. Beyond being a mother, which I love and I wouldn't trade it for the world, it makes me a better mother, it makes me a better person.
Oh, I remember that.
I was scrolling through Facebook. An ad popped up for the Luxembourg Art Prize, and at that particular time I had just made a photo. I submitted it and then looked into it and thought, I probably don't stand a chance. When I found out I was a finalist, I ran down our driveway to tell my husband because I was so excited. I was very surprised but honored. In all my artwork, childhood and motherhood is definitely represented. What is going to be showcased in the Pinakothek Art Gallery is an image I created. The title is Mama Tried. It's a self-portrait, so it's a picture of myself and my 5 kids. All of the images from this series, Mama Tried, are inspired by documentary moments of being a mother to 5. I hope when people look at this particular image and all of the Mama Tried series, they feel a sense of nostalgia from childhood. They see maybe themselves as a mother in me. They're just a representation of real life. The big thing for me, I think, will be seeing my artwork for the first time in an art gallery, which is an accomplishment. The purpose of the project is to launch your international career. I hope that going to Luxembourg will possibly open doors. I mean, winning would be amazing, but I'm not getting my hopes up. It definitely opened my eyes that I could possibly make art and have it recognized, like not even nationally, but internationally. You become part of a network that I am definitely not part of here in Canada as a family photographer. It's like I don't even know what doors it could open. I have so many project ideas, just not enough time to do them all, so I plan on, as time progresses, always shooting what inspires me and creating more and more projects.
Stuff is amazing.
Love those shots.
Puts it on timer and then gets in there herself.
Where does she find time with 5 kids? Just incorporate them in the pictures, right? Yes.
And the winner is going to be announced on Saturday. She's one of 11 finalists. You can see more photos online.
Yeah, as well as our news program, cbc.ca/BC. We're going to leave you tonight with video from Victoria. Those are the British Royal Air Force's aerobatic team, the Red Arrows, doing a fly past of the city's inner harbor. They also made an appearance above Vancouver Harbor not long ago. Dan's here at 11. Thanks for watching.